Hey guys, it's Brandon. Thought I'd do another 15-minute game here. So we're playing Sicilian here with a quick bishop to c4. This isn't really theory, and well, I think I can just get a quick d5 in and have a very nice position. This is very, very strange. c4, queen takes. Queen takes, I guess, is the idea. And I'll just bring my knight out right away to attack the queen. Queen goes back. I think I can play knight to f6 here and just hitting this pawn. That seems fine. So I'm kind of taken aback here. There's not much going on in this opening that's worth mentioning for theory. I mean, this is all just very strange stuff. So to defend the pawn, he's either going to have to move the queen again, play f3, play bishop to d3, moving the queen again, or most likely play knight c3. It's the most natural way to defend the pawn. At which point I can try to put pressure on it again by pinning this knight. So this is like a strange Nimzo Indian almost. So the idea is the knight won't be able to. Okay, the knight is still pinned, so I can just grab this pawn. So I'm already up a pawn out of this opening. I can even play something like knight takes knight. Knight takes knight, and I'll have the pin on this other knight. But I should really help him develop. If you have a pin, just hold on to it. That's the general rule. So if he castles, though, I'll probably have to... Okay, this is a bishop. I will take the bishop pair. That knight is still pinned to the queen this time. Do I have anything great here? I don't think so. I could just castle. Castling seems like a good option. And maybe I'll play d5. Okay, the bishop is a little bit bad, but I'm up a pawn. I don't really want to give up this bishop. I could just play bishop e7. Bishop e7 or bishop c5. Alright, I'm up a pawn. We'll just bring the bishop back. And we'll see where he goes from here. He has two sides which he could castle on. He could castle king side, he could castle queen side. Maybe his best chance... Okay, I don't think that was his best chance, but trying to play something active like castling queenside and just go for a kingside pawn storm or something, because I don't think his chances are very good in a slow sort of grinded out game. So I'm just going to put the bishop on either b7 or a6. Maybe if I extend the fianchetto to a6, just because it'll put this knight in a pin. Okay, it's an easy pin to get out of, but at least the bishop's on an open diagonal, not an open diagonal, an open diagonal, an active diagonal, whereas opposed to on b7, it's sort of hanging against this pawn on d5. My plan at some point is, if the bishop was on b7, is to play d4 to open the pawn up and maybe get some kind of play. That would, of course, sort of extend the scope of his light square bishop. So I don't know. It's tough to gauge what the best plan of action here is. I have some nice square on e5 for my knight. I have well, I mean, I'm just a pawn up, and this is strange. He's playing f5. This is a very strange looking move. I'm not sure what the point is. I'll have bishop c4 check at some point. Is the point f5? It doesn't really scare me. Maybe he just wants to take the e5 square under control. I don't know. I'm just going to get my pieces out, put this knight in a pin. Maybe he just doesn't want my knight going into e5. But if he plays f5, I don't think I have too much to worry about there. Yeah, I could play e5. No, I can't play e5 because the e-pawn is hanging. I'm not particularly worried about this position. I think he's just weakening his king side. Knight to e5. Knight e4. Queen d6. Preparing possible queen c5 checks. Connecting the rooks, that seems like a nice move. Queen on the dark squares is what I want, because he doesn't have a dark square bishop. Let's just put a rook on the c file. If he opens the f file and takes, guess I'll play queen takes. No, maybe bishop takes is better. I'm not sure actually. Oh, he just got out of the pin. So what do I have here? I have knight to e5. Could be a move. Knight e5 attacks the rook. Rook goes to not sure where rook goes. Somewhere. Maybe he'll put it on g3. Not sure, but this is a good square for the knight. He can't go to f2 because of bishop c5. And he can't go to e2 to attack my knight. E3 because of the same bishop c5. Or maybe he can because of knight d4. But then e5. And he'll lose some kind of material. I'll lose a pawn for it. But okay, rook to h7. That's the kind of move I think that looks more dangerous than it is. I could take this pawn, but I don't really want to do that. I just don't think he has any particular coordination on any square in my position, so I'm not particularly worried about h7 right now. Candidate moves here. Not really sure. I think I'll just get my queen onto a good square. Maybe onto the c file. I'm going to get my queen onto a good square defending this knight. I don't want to take the f pawn because then the d pawn falls. If I play e takes f5, then he's got 3 pieces coming in on d5. So that's not particularly appealing. So I have this check on c5 at some point. It's tough. He's down a pawn, I'm up a pawn, but I don't have anything particularly nice to go after, except his king is a little bit open. Let's see, knight to c4, bishop takes, or rook takes. Can double up on the c file and pick on the c pawn. That would be nice. He doesn't have to take the knight. He could play queen to c1 to defend the b pawn. So knight c4, queen c1 defends the b pawn. Actually, it doesn't. I could take the b... No, I can't because of this knight. I thought I could take the b pawn and then take the knight with the queen because this would only have one defender, but of course it's defended by the knight. So, if this knight moves away, that could be... If this knight moves away, I could play knight c4, strong move, forcing bishop takes knight, I think, because of the threat of knight takes c4, and if knight takes b2, and if queen takes b2, queen takes queen to c5 check, followed by queen take the rook also. So that doesn't work. Never mind. Calculating variations that aren't really there for me right now. So he does have this rook on h3, which at some point could be a problem, but I don't see any coordination for him right now. At some point he could try something like getting the queen on this diagonal, this h7 b1 diagonal, and try to sneak in the move f6, because that would expose the mate threat on h7 and also attack the bishop. I'm just going to put my knight in on here. I don't know what this move rook here is doing. Maybe it's preparing pressure on e5. Yeah, he decided to take. I can take with the pawn, offer queen trade. Take with the rook. Take with the bishop. I'm not sure. If I take with the pawn, trades queens, takes on e5, I may still have problems defending this e6 square. Rook over. Well, how's he adding pressure to it? I may end up having to play bishop c8 or something to try to hang on to this pawn. Could play bishop takes bishop and try to pick off this knight and then put pressure on the c pawn. He can easily defend it with like c3. I'm just going to take with the bishop. He may play b3. Oh wow, he's just sacking another pawn here. I don't see why I can't just take this pawn with the bishop. Is there something I'm missing? Some kind of pin or something? I don't think so. So I can just take that. Okay, the d pawn is pinned. Because my queen is no longer protected and is opposite his queen. Yeah. That is one possibility. So he gets the dark square bishop, but it's a pawn, you know? I could also, no. You know, he's getting a pawn for picking up the dark square bishop. What's the big deal? I don't see any coordination on any squares in my position. So I guess he was just playing for the trick there. Okay, so he's got to take the bishop or move the knight away. So a pretty juvenile trick that it's not going to really work. What's the time situation here? So it's about even in time, but I'm up 2 pawns. For as far as I can see, no compensation whatsoever. Okay, he's going to get he's going to get the bishop pair back from me. That's something. He'll just have a knight versus my bishop. But it's 2 pawns. You know? And I didn't have queen to c5 check to hold on to the bishop either, of course, because the knight's covering c5, so. I don't know what he's thinking about here. I think taking the bishop is maybe the only real chance he has left. I mean, the knight is hanging, the pawn on. Wow. What's the idea here? Knight to h5? I don't know. I'm taking this pawn. This pawn on b2 is hanging. So I'm now up 3 pawns. I can play g3, bishop g2, h6, and it'll be really tough for him to come after my king. This pawn over here is also hanging on a. Oh boy. Yeah. But so I'm now up 4 pawns. Where's this knight coming in? I don't know. I could pin it. I could pin that knight. I could pin the knight, then take it, and try to get this open c-file to play with. I mean, I'm just up 4 pawns here, so if I just trade material, he's got no way to win this game. Yeah, what the heck, I'll just pin the knight. And the bishops are very nice. Pointing at his king. He can hide in the corner. Okay, but... It may even be worth it just to chop this knight and start trying to exchange pieces. Okay, I do have to be aware that this rook is opposite my queen. I don't really like that. So where to transfer my queen to? I'm not sure, to be honest. Get my queen on the c-file. Yeah, he may be planning something with knight to f5, taking advantage of this pin. I'm just going to get rid of this knight. Maybe that's objectively not the best exchange for me, but I'm up 4 pawns. And I can immediately put pressure on the on the pawn on d4 with queen to f6, but then rook to f1. I'm going to move my queen to b7, get out of any knight f5 stuff, and just start pushing these pawns. There's no reason for me to do anything except push these pawns. Okay, now I need to be a little bit cautious. The g-pawn is pinned. I could play h6. Is he threatening anything specific? Knight h5, maybe. Knight h5, g6. Knight h5, f5, or f6 actually seems good. So the queen can guard g7 laterally. And well, what about knight h5? What about just bishop, bishop d, d4, knight h5, bishop g6, defending the mate. Yeah, I like that. This is a nice defensive move, I think. Bishop d3, d3, and if knight h5 or knight f5, then I'll just grab it. But if knight h5, bishop g6, so the queen has to go through the bishop to try to get to the g7 pawn. I may even if he doesn't play knight g5, I may just play bishop g6. It also sets up back rank mates. His back rank is weak, so he has to be careful. This rook can't really leave the back rank. Oh, actually, the queen is guarding c1, so lucky for him, he can afford to move this rook. But anyway, this move does a few things. It prepares bishop g6 and opens the c file for my rook. And also from g6, it's covering the b2, the b1 square, which is where my plan is just to start pushing this pawn up the board. Just fight off any kingside stuff and just push this pawn up the board. I do have to be a little bit cautious of my time here, but as long as I avoid any mates, and maybe he will mate me, I don't know. As long as I avoid any mates, this should all be perfectly fine for me, just up 4 pawns. So he's actually about a minute down on the clock. I'm expecting knight h5 at some point. Yeah. So this was my idea, just to block the mate threat now on g6, on g7. I could also try taking the knight. That's an option. I have stuff like f6, so the queen can guard this square laterally. If he takes, I may have to deal with some stuff on the h file, or the f file. Takes, f takes, queen here, g6. See, if he takes the bishop, h takes is no good because of the queen just coming to the h file, and then mate, I could run with the king. But takes, if knight takes, then f takes. queen comes to the queen h4, and then h6 is my defensive plan. Seems fine. I do have to watch my time a little bit. Okay, this pawn on the e-file is hanging, but not really in that variation. Oh, let me just see. Queen. Yeah, the pawn is sort of hanging on e6, but luckily I have enough pawns. I'm just avoiding any mate threats here. Maybe I had a more accurate system of defense. Yeah, okay, the e-pawn is hanging. Oh, but it's actually not because of the mate threat. I do have rook to f1 mate if he takes the pawn. So rook f1 mate if rook takes e6, and if queen to h4, just g6 is my plan. I don't think he has any perpetuals with. Oh, okay, so now the pawn is hanging. Because of the king coming out. So I can defend the e-pawn. Okay, so if I play like queen c6, queen h4, here, pawn pushes is the issue. But I'll have rook here to defend the file, I think. Okay, I'm concerned about queen h4, h6, g5, but if he takes, and takes, I should be able to cover the 7th rank with the rook. Okay, he's just trying to pick on the pawn now. I'll just defend the pawn. I'm up on time, so I do have to hurry a little bit. But he's got no mate threats anymore. I could even double on the file here. This doesn't help you because he can't take with the queen first. So I'm just gonna push. If he takes with the queen first, he just loses his queen. Oh, that's true. Alright, but I get the pawn back on g5. So I'm still up a bunch of pawns. This isn't going to help him in the long run either. My king can come in and blockade, and I'm going to win this game on time. And I have just a ton of pawns, and that's that. I'll just defend that pawn. You can't really stop all these pawns. You can blockade temporarily, but he's just giving up a rook here. So he's just resigning. So, alright, hope you guys enjoyed that game. It was, I mean, my opponent sort of just gave up pawns. He lost a pawn in the opening. Just bad opening play. And from there, didn't play very actively, I guess. This f6 move, just sacrificing another pawn. And here he should absolutely have taken, I mean, a pawn was hanging, and the dark square bishop could be a valuable defender of my king, so maybe this capture wasn't the best for me, but you know, the idea of this queen b7 move is just to push the pawns. I think this was a good defensive plan with the bishop coming back here. Taking, I think, queen h4 met by h6. g5. Now I was thinking about, well, I played this move. I was thinking maybe queen h4, g6, and then here, attacking the pawn. Well, I guess I could have just played h5 there, and what's going on? There's nothing. After h5, it's just completely over. So okay, he did have this g5 move, but he didn't win a pawn from it because of rook taking g5. And any trade is good for me here because in this endgame I'm just up 4 pawns. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that game, and we'll see you next time. Bye.